The three zodiac signs that carry the deepest spiritual pain, Cayce reveals. You've always felt different, not broken, not damaged, but carved by something ancient, like you're carrying a weight that others don't seem to notice, a depth that exhausts you, a sensitivity that makes the world feel louder, sharper, heavier than it appears to be for everyone else. You've probably wondered why. Why does life feel harder for you? Why do certain patterns repeat no matter how much you heal? Why does your heart ache with griefs you can't name, losses you can't remember, and a loneliness that persists even when you're surrounded by love? Here's what most people don't know. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet who conducted over 14,000 psychic readings while in trance, discovered something extraordinary about the Zodiac. Something that changes everything we think we know about astrology, karma, and why some souls seem to suffer more than others. He found that three specific zodiac signs weren't randomly assigned their sensitivity. They volunteered for it, before birth, before incarnation, before they ever took their first breath on this earth. These three signs made a sacred agreement in the Akashic records, the cosmic library where every soul's journey is written. They chose to carry humanity's deepest karmic wounds, not as punishment, not as cosmic bad luck, but as service. This isn't about victimhood. This isn't astrology as entertainment or personality quiz. This is about soul contracts written in realms beyond our memory. This is about why certain people are born feeling like they're carrying the weight of worlds they've never seen. The three signs we'll explore today each carry a specific archetypal pain: the pain of abandonment, the pain of betrayal, the pain of powerlessness. And if you're one of these three, you're about to finally understand why life has felt heavier for you, why you've been tested in ways that seem unfair, why your heart has been asked to hold more than seems reasonable for one lifetime. But more importantly, you're about to discover the spiritual gift hidden inside your suffering, the medicine you were always meant to make from your wound, the reason your soul chose this particular form of pain as the fastest path to awakening. But first, you need to understand something essential. You need to know why certain souls choose to carry more weight than others, why some people are born with an invisible burden that shapes every relationship, every fear, every choice they make. Because once you understand that, everything changes. Edgar Cayce was called many things during his lifetime: the sleeping prophet, the father of holistic medicine, America's greatest mystic. But what made him truly extraordinary wasn't just his ability to diagnose illness while in trance or predict future events with uncanny accuracy. It was his access to the Akashic records, the cosmic library, the infinite field of consciousness where every soul's journey across all lifetimes is recorded. Every choice, every lesson, every contract made before incarnation. When people came to Cayce seeking answers about illness, relationships, life purpose, he would lie down, close his eyes, and enter a sleep-like state. And in that state, he could read their soul's entire history, as if turning pages in a book written before time began. What he discovered about astrology changed everything. Most people think of zodiac signs as personality templates, fun descriptions of traits and tendencies. But Cayce saw something deeper. He saw that zodiac signs aren't random assignments at birth. They're frequency assignments, based on past life karma, based on soul-level missions, based on what your soul came here to learn, to heal, to transmute. Your sun sign isn't who you are. It's the particular vibration your soul chose to work with in this lifetime, the specific set of challenges and gifts you agreed to carry. And here's where it gets profound. In hundreds of readings over decades, Cayce began noticing patterns. Certain signs appeared again and again in readings for people experiencing unexplained grief. Recurring trauma patterns, empathic overwhelm, spiritual exhaustion that couldn't be explained by their current life circumstances alone. 3 signs in particular stood out. 3 signs that consistently carried what Cayce called karmic debts, or more accurately, service agreements. These weren't punishments handed down by an angry universe. They were initiations, chosen challenges. These souls were what Cayce described as world servers, advanced beings who incarnate specifically to transmute collective shadow. They're the ones who feel humanity's pain in their own bodies, who absorb the grief and rage and terror that others can't hold, who volunteer to carry wounds on behalf of the whole so that healing can happen through them. Cayce spoke of these souls with reverence, with compassion. He never called them unlucky or cursed. He called them brave, because it takes extraordinary courage to choose a lifetime of deeper pain in service of deeper awakening, not just for yourself, but for everyone your life touches. And the first sign we'll meet today carries the wound that humanity fears most, the agony of being left behind by love itself. Before we meet the 3 signs, you need to understand something fundamental about how souls choose their incarnations. This isn't random. Your birth wasn't an accident. Your challenges weren't bad luck. And the depth of pain you've experienced wasn't a cosmic oversight. Before you incarnated, before you took this body, this name, this family, your soul sat in council with guides, teachers, and the records of your own eternal journey. And together, you reviewed the curriculum. Earth is a school, a training ground, a place where souls come to learn through experience what they cannot learn in the formless realms. And like any school, there are different levels, different intensities of study. Some souls choose easy lifetimes, lifetimes of integration, rest, play, lifetimes where they practice what they've already learned in gentler circumstances, but others choose crucible lifetimes, intense, concentrated learning through suffering, through loss, through the kind of pain that cracks you open and forces you to discover what's indestructible inside you. The 3 signs we're exploring today didn't randomly get unlucky. They specifically chose zodiac frequencies aligned with archetypal human wounds because they had the spiritual maturity, the soul strength, to alchemize those wounds into wisdom. This is Cayce's framework, and it's essential to understand. Pain isn't punishment. Pain is concentrated teaching. These 3 signs are the graduate students of Earth School. They're the ones taking advanced courses while others are still working through the basics. And yes, that means their homework is harder, their tests are more frequent, their lessons cut deeper. But it also means something else. They have access to wisdom others can't reach, compassion others can't embody, healing capacity others haven't developed yet. There's a sacred trade-off happening here. More suffering, yes, but also more depth, more gifts, more medicine to offer the world once the initiation is complete. So the question isn't, why me? The question is, what am I being prepared to heal in myself and in the world? What wound did my soul volunteer to carry so that I could learn to transform it into something that serves not just my own healing, but the healing of everyone I'll ever meet? That's the question that changes everything. And now it's time to meet the first wounded healer. The first sign is Pisces, born between February 19th and March 20th. The mystic, the empath, the dreamer, the one who feels everything, yours, mine, the grief of strangers, the sorrow of trees, the loneliness embedded in old songs and abandoned buildings. If you're a Pisces, you know what I'm talking about. You've always felt too much, cried too easily, loved too deeply, and somehow, no matter how much love you give, it never feels like enough to fill the emptiness inside. In Cayce's readings, Pisces souls carry a specific karmic imprint, the wound of divine abandonment. Not abandonment by a person, not just the pain of a parent leaving or a lover walking away. Deeper than that. This is the primal wound of separation from Source, the original grief of the soul leaving the oneness and descending into form, into separation, into the illusion that love can be lost. Pisces remembers what it felt like to be held by the infinite, to be home, to be love itself. And now they're here, in a body, in a world where everyone feels separate, where love is conditional, where connection breaks, where people leave, and that bone-deep feeling never goes away, the feeling that love is always temporary, that everyone eventually leaves, that you're destined to be alone, no matter how deeply you connect with someone. This is the archetypal pain Pisces carries, and here's why it chose Pisces specifically. Pisces is the final sign of the Zodiac, the 12th house, the ending and the beginning, the place where all souls return before starting the cycle again. As the last sign, Pisces holds the memory of all the signs that came before it, the collective grief of every soul who ever felt forsaken, every heartbreak, every goodbye, every loss. Pisces didn't just agree to feel its own abandonment wounds, it agreed to feel humanity's. So in this lifetime, this manifests in specific painful ways. Pisces attracts unavailable partners, people who can't fully commit, people who are emotionally absent even when they're physically present. Pisces experiences unexplained grief, crying at beauty because it reminds them of a home they can't remember but desperately miss. Pisces gives and gives and gives, trying to prove they're worth staying for, trying to earn the love that can't be earned because it was never actually lost in the first place. And here's the spiritual logic behind all of it. Pisces volunteered to feel humanity's loneliness so deeply that they could teach the rest of us something essential. That connection is never truly broken, only forgotten. That the love they're searching for outside themselves is what they are. That separation is the illusion, and oneness is the truth they're here to remember and embody. But to access that medicine, to become the healer they were born to be, Pisces must first pass through an initiation, a threshold that every Pisces soul will face, again and again, until they learn the lesson hidden inside their wound. And that threshold is coming next. The test Pisces faces is this: learning where they end and others begin. Because here's what happens when you feel everything. When your empathy is so vast it erases boundaries. When your heart is so open that others' emotions flood in, like you left the door unlocked, you lose yourself. Not metaphorically, actually, literally. You forget who you are, what you want, what you need, because you're so busy feeling what everyone else feels, so consumed with managing everyone else's emotional weather that your own self dissolves. And the mirror Pisces must look into shows them something uncomfortable. Every time they've abandoned themselves to avoid being abandoned by others. Every boundary they've dissolved trying to merge with someone who wasn't capable of true union. Every time they've made themselves smaller, quieter, less, hoping that if they just need less, ask for less, are less, maybe this time the person will stay. This is the shadow Pisces has to face, that in trying to prevent abandonment, they become the abandoner. They abandon their own needs, their own truth, their own sovereignty, and Cayce's guidance here is clear. Pisces must learn that oneness doesn't mean loss of self. True spiritual connection, the kind Pisces is actually seeking, doesn't require you to disappear. It doesn't demand self-erasure as proof of love. Real oneness preserves sovereignty, honors boundaries, celebrates two whole beings choosing to connect, rather than two wounded halves trying to become whole through merging. But there's a shadow trap here that Pisces falls into more than any other sign: addiction. Not always to substances, though sometimes, but also to people, to fantasy, to the spiritual realms, to anything that lets them escape the pain of being embodied, being separate, being here. Pisces can become expert spiritual bypassers, floating above life rather than living it, using meditation, mysticism, and transcendence as tools to avoid the very human messiness they came here to heal. They'll say things like, "We're all one," while refusing to set a boundary. Love is all that matters, while accepting treatment that doesn't honor them. It's all an illusion, while their body is screaming for them to leave a situation that's harming them. This is the initiation. Pisces must choose to stay incarnate, even when the veil is thin, even when earth feels like exile, even when love disappoints, even when being in a body with needs and limits and boundaries feels like the opposite of the spiritual freedom they long for. They must learn that embodiment isn't the problem, it's the whole point. Because here's what happens when Pisces finally integrates this lesson. When they learn to hold their sensitivity and their boundaries at the same time. When they stop abandoning themselves in hopes that someone else will fill the void. When they anchor their spirit fully in their body and claim their right to be here, to take up space, to need and want and ask and receive. They become what Cayce called cosmic translators, beings who can bridge heaven and earth, who can hold the infinite and the finite simultaneously, who can feel everything without being consumed by it. They become the living proof that you can be spiritually open and emotionally sovereign at the same time. And that's the medicine the world is desperate for. But Pisces isn't alone in carrying an ancient wound. The second sign we'll meet carries a wound just as old and far more violent. The second sign is Scorpio, born between October 23rd and November 21st, the alchemist, the phoenix, the one who dies and resurrects, the one who knows that transformation always requires destruction first. If you're a Scorpio, you know intimacy like a battlefield. You know what it's like to trust someone completely, and then watch them weaponize that trust. To be betrayed by the people who were supposed to be safe. To discover that the ones you loved most were the ones capable of hurting you most deeply. And it doesn't happen once. It happens again, and again, and again. Like the universe is orchestrating it, like betrayal is written into your contract, and no matter how careful you are, how guarded, how selective, someone always finds a way to prove that trust is foolish. In Cayce's readings, Scorpio souls carry the karmic imprint of sacred betrayal, the wound of being destroyed by those they trusted most, lovers who cheat, friends who expose your secrets, family members who weaponize your vulnerability, business partners who steal, teachers who abuse power, people who smile to your face and plot behind your back. This is the archetypal pain Scorpio carries. But here's what makes it sacred according to Cayce. Betrayal isn't happening to punish Scorpio. It's happening to teach them the ultimate spiritual paradox. That betrayal is the gateway to radical self-reliance and trust in the divine, not in humans. Scorpio is learning that people will fail you, that even the most well-intentioned humans are flawed, wounded, capable of cruelty when they're acting from their own unhealed places. But the divine won't fail you. Your own soul won't betray you, and the power you're seeking outside yourself, in loyalty, in control, in guarantees, is actually inside you, waiting to be claimed. So why Scorpio specifically? Because Scorpio is the sign of death and rebirth, of the phoenix rising from ashes, of the snake shedding skin, of total transformation through total destruction. Scorpio didn't just agree to experience betrayal. They agreed to experience it so intensely that they'd be forced to die and resurrect, again and again, until they learned the deepest truth of their sign, that they cannot be destroyed. Not really. Not at the soul level. You can betray a Scorpio's trust, but you cannot break their spirit. You can wound them, but you cannot make them weak. You can tear down everything they built, but you cannot stop them from rebuilding something stronger from the ruins. And in this lifetime, this manifests in specific, recognizable patterns. Scorpios either become hyper-controlling, never trusting anyone again, building walls so high that no one can get close enough to hurt them, or they become hyper-vulnerable, testing everyone, pushing boundaries, creating situations where people are forced to either betray them or prove their loyalty, like they're trying to get the betrayal over with, because waiting for it feels worse than experiencing it. Neither strategy works. Both are attempts to control the uncontrollable, to prevent the very pain they came here to transform. And here's the spiritual logic beneath it all. Scorpio volunteered to experience betrayal so intensely that they could teach humanity something essential: how to transform poison into power, how to rise from ashes, how to take the worst thing that ever happened to you and use it as fuel for your becoming. Cayce's language for this was striking. He said, "The Scorpio soul chooses the death of illusion again and again until it learns it cannot be destroyed. The illusion being that safety comes from controlling others, that trust means never being hurt, that power means never being vulnerable. All illusions, and Scorpios, betrayals are designed to shatter those illusions so completely that they have no choice but to find the indestructible truth beneath them. But to access that truth, Scorpio must face something most people spend their entire lives avoiding: the Hall of Mirrors, where they must confront not just the betrayers, but the betrayer within themselves. The test Scorpio faces is brutal in its honesty. It's this: recognizing that they've also been the betrayer, not just the victim, not just the wounded one, but also the perpetrator, the manipulator, the one who held secrets as weapons, the one who withdrew love as punishment, the one who used intimacy as currency and trust as leverage. In this life, or in past ones, the victim-perpetrator loop must be seen clearly, and this is the part most Scorpios resist, because it's easier to hold on to the identity of the wronged one, the one who was hurt, the one who has every right to their rage, their control, their walls. And yes, that's true. You were hurt. You were betrayed. Your rage is valid. But the Hall of Records reveals something else. Every time you've done the same thing you swore you'd never do, every time you've manipulated someone from fear, every time you've tested someone's loyalty in ways that were designed to make them fail, every time you've withheld information, affection, presence, as a strategy to protect yourself or punish them, not because you're evil, but because you learned it, because you were betrayed first, and the only way you knew how to survive was to become someone who couldn't be betrayed again, to become someone who saw the betrayal coming and struck first. No shame here, only clarity. Scorpio's betrayals weren't acts of malice. They were protective strategies learned from being destroyed by trust. But Cayce's teaching is uncompromising. Scorpio must integrate their shadow, the manipulator, the controller, the destroyer, not reject it, not project it onto others, not pretend it doesn't exist inside them. Integrate it, because here's the revelation Scorpio is being guided toward. They keep attracting betrayers because they're being shown their own unintegrated power, the part of them that knows how to annihilate, the part that could destroy someone if they wanted to, the part that understands manipulation, control, psychological warfare, not because they're dark, but because they've lived through it and learned the mechanics. And they're terrified of that part of themselves, so they project it. They see it in others. They attract people who embody their shadow so they can fight it outside themselves instead of owning it within. But that's not the path forward. The initiation Scorpio must pass through is this: choosing conscious power, wielding their intensity for creation, not destruction, for healing, not revenge, for truth, not control. Scorpio has the power to see through lies, to cut through illusion, to expose what's rotting beneath the surface. That's a gift. But it can be used as a weapon or as a scalpel. A weapon destroys indiscriminately. A scalpel removes what's dead so new life can grow. And when Scorpio finally makes that choice, when they transmute betrayal into boundaries, rage into discernment, and their need for control into trust in their own resilience, they become what Cayce called spiritual surgeons, beings who can cut away what's dead in themselves and others with precision and love, who can hold space for the most painful truths without flinching, who can guide others through their own deaths and rebirths because they've done it so many times themselves. That's the medicine hiding inside Scorpio's wound, not the absence of betrayal, but the mastery of transformation. 2 signs down, and now we meet the third, the one who carries a wound so foundational it shapes every human's deepest fear. The third sign is Capricorn, born between December 22nd and January 19th, the builder, the elder, the one who climbs mountains alone, the one who believes that safety is earned through discipline, achievement, and relentless self-sufficiency. If you're a Capricorn, you know what it's like to be terrified of collapse, not just failure, not just losing, but total structural collapse, the ground giving way beneath you, everything you worked for crumbling, being rendered powerless by forces you cannot control, poverty, illness, systemic oppression, betrayal of institutions, the rug pulled out from under you not by a person, but by life itself. And no matter how hard you work, how disciplined you are, how much you achieve, the fear never fully leaves, the fear that it can all be taken away, that safety is always an illusion, that you're one disaster away from losing everything. In Cayce's readings, Capricorn souls carry the karmic imprint of systemic powerlessness, the wound of being crushed by forces beyond their control. Not in this lifetime only, but across lifetimes. Capricorns have lived through famines where hard work couldn't save them, oppression where integrity didn't matter, economic collapses where their savings vanished overnight, wars where survival was random. They've learned, in the marrow of their bones, that the universe is not inherently safe, that you cannot control outcomes, that fairness is a myth, that effort doesn't guarantee reward, and so in this lifetime they become obsessed with control, with building structures so solid that nothing can topple them, with achieving so much that loss becomes impossible, with working so hard that the universe has no choice but to reward them. But here's the archetypal pain beneath all of it. No matter what they achieve, the fear remains. Because the wound isn't about lack of achievement. It's about the terror of powerlessness itself, the bone-deep belief that they are, at their core, unsafe in this world. And so they build empires, climb ladders, work themselves to exhaustion, sacrifice rest, joy, connection, all in service of the illusion of control. But Cayce saw something deeper. He saw that Capricorn's wound isn't meant to be solved through more control. It's meant to be healed through surrender, through learning that true power doesn't come from controlling outcomes. It comes from trusting a benevolent universe, from knowing that even when structures collapse, the soul remains. That worth isn't earned, it's inherent. And this is the spiritual logic behind Capricorn's pain. They volunteered to experience structural collapse, failure, loss, humiliation, so they could teach humanity something essential, that the only unshakable foundation is love. Not achievement, not status, not wealth or power or control. Love, the love that doesn't need to be earned, the love that can't be taken away, the love that exists whether you succeed or fail, whether you're productive or resting, whether you're strong or broken. Cayce said of Capricorn souls, the Capricorn soul chooses to build empires and watch them fall until it learns the only unshakable foundation is love. And in this lifetime, that manifests in painful, specific ways. Capricorns become workaholics. They equate rest with weakness. They treat vulnerability like death. They build walls around their hearts because emotions feel like loss of control. They measure their worth by their productivity, by what they've built, by how indispensable they are. And when they inevitably hit a wall, when their body breaks down from exhaustion, when a relationship ends because they couldn't let anyone in, when the career they sacrificed everything for fails or disappears, they face the initiation, the one they've been preparing for their entire lives. And that initiation is this: allowing something to fall without catching it. The test Capricorn faces is choosing between force and flow, between controlling outcomes through sheer will or building in alignment with divine timing. Because here's what Capricorn doesn't realize until they're in the middle of their collapse. They've been building the wrong things, or building the right things for the wrong reasons, or building at a pace that was never sustainable because they were running from the fear, not moving toward the vision. And the mirror they must look into shows them something humbling. Every time they've sacrificed joy for achievement, every relationship they've treated as a project to be managed rather than a connection to be felt, every moment they've equated their worth with their productivity, their value with their output, their lovability with their usefulness, the mirror shows them that they've been trying to earn something that was always freely given. And Cayce's guidance here is gentle but firm. Capricorn must learn that rest is sacred, that vulnerability is strength, that asking for help isn't failure, it's wisdom, that you can be disciplined and soft at the same time, ambitious and present, successful and human. But there's a shadow trap Capricorn falls into when they refuse this lesson. They become cold, isolated, bitter. They build walls so high that no one, including themselves, can reach their heart. They mistake loneliness for independence, emotional numbness for strength. They tell themselves they don't need anyone. That needing is weakness. That connection is a distraction from the work. And slowly they become the mountain they're climbing, hard, immovable, lifeless. This is the initiation Capricorn must pass through. They must allow something they've built to fall, without catching it, without fixing it, without proving that they can handle it alone. They must let themselves be seen in their brokenness, in their exhaustion, in their need. And they must discover that they don't disappear when they stop performing, that they're still worthy when they're resting, that they're still valuable when they're vulnerable, that the universe didn't abandon them just because they stopped trying to control everything. This is the death Capricorn must endure to be reborn. And here's what happens on the other side. When Capricorn finally transmutes control into stewardship, when they release fear and choose faith, when they build from love instead of from terror of collapse, they become what Cayce called benevolent elders, wise leaders who build with love, not ego, who create systems that honor rest, not just productivity, who lead from the heart, not from the need to prove their worth. They become the living proof that true power is soft, that real strength includes vulnerability, that sustainable success is built on a foundation of self-compassion, not self-punishment. That's the medicine hidden inside Capricorn's wound, not the absence of failure, but the wisdom to know that you are more than what you build, that your worth was never in question, that you were always held, even when you felt most alone. 3 signs, 3 wounds, 3 initiations into the deepest forms of healing. And now the question becomes, what do you do with this knowledge? If you're Pisces, Scorpio, or Capricorn, or you love someone who is, this is where we move from understanding to practice, because knowing your wound is only the beginning. The real work is learning how to transmute it, daily, in the small moments, in the choices you make when no one's watching. So here are the rituals, the practices, the daily medicines for each sign. For Pisces, Your work is boundaries without hardening. Ritual 1. Morning boundary meditation. Before you get out of bed, before you check your phone, before you let the world's energy flood in, visualize a golden sphere around your heart. It's luminous, permeable. It allows love in and love out, but it filters other people's emotions. Practice saying, even just to yourself, I am here, I am whole, I choose what I carry. Ritual 2. Embodiment practice. Daily, dance, yoga, grounding exercises, anything that anchors your spirit in your body. Pisces, you're so good at floating that you forget you have a nervous system, muscles, bones. Your sensitivity needs a strong vessel. Tend to it. Mantra, I am here, I am whole, I am not alone. For Scorpio, your work is trust without control. Ritual 1. Shadow journaling, weekly. Write an honest inventory of where you're holding grudges, secrets, or control. Where are you testing people? Where are you withholding? Where are you manipulating outcomes from fear? Write to understand, not to shame. This isn't about being bad, it's about being conscious. Ritual 2. Trust experiments. Small, calculated risks with safe people. Tell someone a truth you usually hide. Ask for help when you don't need to. Let someone see you uncertain, confused, soft. Your nervous system needs to learn that vulnerability doesn't equal destruction. Mantra, I am safe, I am powerful, I choose renewal. For Capricorn, your work is rest without guilt. Ritual 1. Scheduled rest. Treat downtime as non-negotiable. Put it in your calendar like a business meeting, a meeting with your soul. And when that time comes, do nothing productive. Lie down, stare at the ceiling, let yourself be unproductive, and notice that the world doesn't end. Ritual 2. Vulnerability practice. Once a week, share one unpolished, imperfect truth with someone you trust. Tell them you're tired, that you don't have it all figured out, that you need support. Let yourself be seen as human, not just as the strong one. Mantra, I am enough, I am held, I release control. These aren't just suggestions. They're the antidotes to the poisons your wounds have been feeding you. And the practice isn't about perfection, it's about repetition, about choosing differently a little bit at a time, until the new pattern becomes stronger than the old one. But what if you're not one of these 3 signs? What if someone you love is carrying this pain and you don't know how to hold space for them? That's what we'll explore next. If your partner, child, friend, or parent is Pisces, Scorpio, or Capricorn, you've probably felt helpless at times, watching them suffer, watching them repeat patterns, watching them carry weights you can't lift for them, and you've probably wanted to fix it, to solve it, to make it better. But here's what you need to understand. Their pain isn't something you can solve, and trying to fix them might actually be the most unloving thing you can do, because it implies they're broken, that their wound is a problem to be eliminated rather than a sacred initiation to be honored. So here's what they actually need from you by sign. For Pisces, they need consistent presence, not intensity, not grand gestures, just being there, showing up, staying grounded when they're dissolving. Don't merge with their emotions. Don't try to feel what they're feeling. That's not helpful. That's just 2 people drowning. Instead, anchor them. Be the solid ground they can return to. Remind them gently that they're not too much, that their sensitivity is a gift, that you're not leaving. For Scorpio, they need trustworthy patience. Don't demand their secrets. Don't push for intimacy before they're ready. Don't take it personally when they test you, because they will test you. Prove through time and consistency that you won't betray them, that you can hold their intensity without flinching, that you're not scared of their rage, their darkness, their depth. Let them move at their own pace. Trust is earned slowly with Scorpio. There are no shortcuts. For Capricorn, They need permission to rest, and not just verbal permission. They need you to actively celebrate their being, not just their doing. Notice them when they're not achieving. Love them when they're not productive. Create spaces where accomplishment isn't required or expected. Tell them they don't have to earn your love, that they're not a burden when they're struggling, that asking for help is brave, not weak. But here's what you need too: boundaries, because their wounds will activate yours. Pisces' abandonment wound will trigger your own abandonment anxiety, the fear that you're not enough to make them stay.